my motivation, my reaching deep to accomplish what I needed to accomplish was my mental thought of my being the provider for my kids and being, making them, providing them with something that they would be proud of in the future. And it worked out for me.
Yeah.
But my latest transformation came, just a couple of years ago.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to talk about that. What you wanted to talk about that? Let's.
Yeah. So, I have, I started with Staples. I told you the story about store to store and what have you.
Mhm.
And you understand how important my family is to me. My family is always number one. But I also knew that number two took care of number one. So I had to have a very intense interest and focus on my business to continue to do well and advance because it took care of number two.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of people would say, you're so committed to your work. What about your family? And my work takes care of my family. And I will never forget that. They are my number one, but I have to provide for my family. And
Mhm.
it sounds kind of backwards a little bit, but yeah, I raised 9 kids, man.
Yeah.
you know. So
Nine kids, man. You gotta fit. I remember times that I wanted. I'm not to cut you off, but I know. I remember when you reached 5. You were like, "Oh, Uncle Jerry got a baseball team. I mean, a
a
basketball team."
basketball squad.
Woo! And I'm like, "All right, number 6. Okay, now everybody's talking. He might have a baseball team, and look at that. You do have a starting 9." Anyways,
Yeah, that's great. But anyways, as I worked a lot, I made a lot of business trips. I was away from the family a lot, and a lot of it was for all the right reasons. Um, I came to New York, and I was working hard. At the time, I had been separated, um, and the company had asked me to come to New York several times, and I didn't want any part of New York. New England, yes.
mm,
Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maine. I worked in all of those states for Staples, but I didn't want to come to New York. However, there was a situation in the New York Albany market area with stores really looking run down, and the regional vice president asked me if I would consider coming out here to help, to mentor, to help fix the stores and things like that. And I says, yeah, for those reasons I would go. And my team at the time were prepared. They were all enrolled. We have backfills for everybody already in succession. So, they could do it without me. And I came to New York, and I went to Latham, New York, the Staples there. I walked in and the store was imploded. And I says, boy, this is going to be a challenge. So the company put me up Monday through Friday in a hotel, and then I went back to New Hampshire on the weekends. And I really enjoyed working in that area. I drove around, got to know the area, better, and as things continued to progress for me, and the situation not getting any better, I'm used to just going in the store in 3 months, I'm out because it's fixed. Well, it wasn't going to be fixed in a year. So, the conversation came up about potentially moving people, general managers from other areas of the country into New York. I says, well, what about me? I would consider it. And they looked at me, HR and my regional vice president, are you really interested? I says, yeah, I think my store can sustain, and we can promote everybody one step up, and it's like still being there. And what happened was I did, but now I needed to be successful. I needed to fix that store because I committed to it, full time and permanent. And I ran myself. I am one of those individuals that if it's not right, I don't go home. I have many 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. days. I have many 8-day weeks.
Wow.
And it caught up to me. On a very tired Friday afternoon, I went into my back room, and we have this machine. It's called a baler, where we crush the cardboard and recycle it.
Yep. Yep.
And I dropped my pen, and I went to pick up my pen. And when I went to get up, I lost my balance and moved forward, and I hit the hinge on that machine, and I hit the top of my head severely. When I grabbed my head, and I'm almost tears coming out of my eye. I go into my office. I put my head on the counter, holding my head up. And when I came home, I asked him to kind of look. I felt that I banged my head a little bit here, and she goes, "Oh, there's a bump there, but there's no cut." To make a long story short, 10 days to the day, I had an episode where I lost my speech in a conversation at the store,
Holy God.
and my arms were numb, and I turned pale. I was fortunate that my associate I was talking to was an EMT, and he goes, "Jerry, you don't look right. This is not right. We got to take you to the emergency room." And I says, "No, I'm coming out of it." I never experienced anything like that in my life, and the inability to say what I wanted to say, just nothing came out when I attempted to talk.
So you knew
So
you knew what you wanted to say. You were trying to, and you're like the most. It was not
it
coming.
wasn't coming. Yeah, I wasn't coming out of
You
my
were
mouth.
like aware that like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was aware.
oh
And then
wow.
I was aware about my feeling in my arms. They felt, frozen.
Hmm.
And so I agreed. So they had somebody drive me to the emergency room. And I'm glad that I agreed, because the girl that drove me to the emergency room, I gave her my wallet because I couldn't communicate my ID and all that good stuff. So I sent Kim a text, once I was in the room being examined, that um, don't freak out, but I'm in the emergency room. Uh, and she was grocery shopping, and she really rushed through and came to the hospital. By the time she was there, they were prepping me to go into surgery.
Wow.
So as they're sitting there asking me questions, did you fall? Did you hit your head? I said, no. So luckily Kim walked in. She goes, yes, 2 weeks ago you came home, asked me to look at a bump on your head. And I says, oh, that's right. It came back to me. So they took x-rays. I had blood clots in my brain, and they were blocking some of the functions. So they went in, and they stuck what they call the surgery was burr holes to help the drain. So they put like straws into your brain
Right.
to
So
help it.
did they have to go through the skull?
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh. Wait. So in those 10 days, were there like any signs that like maybe small signs that were like, well, like I'm trying to do something that like it wasn't
Yeah,
your normal routine and was not working for you. Was there any signs like that?
yeah. So hindsight, right?
Yeah.
Um, I go back. I had a headache. I had discomfort. I don't recall the speech problem, but I can go back and think. But you write it off as being tired,
Yeah.
because I was working a lot of hours and so on. But when they did the first surgery, it did not work. So they had to do 2 weeks later, I had to go back in, and they had to go in deep. But so I have a scar that goes from my forehead here all the way behind my ear. It's like a hook. And they had to
Wow.
go down, they had to cut my temple,
Okay.
which to get to where they needed to get to. And that's what caused further speech problems.
So in trying to fix it, it made it worse.
Right. but it was the thing they had to do.
Okay, yeah, it was that we have to take that step first.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Understanding,
when they
under,
first
go ahead.
when they do the first one with the bird holes, did they know like, okay, let me try this first, but we might have to do a bigger surgery.
Yeah, that's always an option because they knew exactly what they needed to do
Okay. All
in
right.
the event that failed. So it was prep and go, when it happened again.
Mhm.
But it was scary. It was scary to say the least. The transformation was understanding that I never existed before that. I told you what I said when Jerry was born.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
looked in the mirror and I lived that. I lived through the sacrifices that I had to go through to provide for my family.
Mhm.
And the things that I was doing professionally were for my family. So I never found fault in me going full force for my family. And that, what it told me was that I need to slow down. And if I can make it through this, I need to go back and realize how important I am, more so than the provider, but the existence in my family's life, the existence for me, my mother, my siblings, my family as a whole. And I had a lot of time to meditate on that.
Mm.
So the doctors were telling me, this is August. They're telling me you lucky to go back to work by May next year. And I says, oh, that's a long time. And so I felt helpless. I felt um, worthless. I had all the emotions against me. So that level of confidence that I lived with was tarnished, crushed, and I felt myself going into depression. Now, I felt it, knowing knowing people that have been depressed and diagnosed with depression. I felt
Yeah.
those symptoms. I felt like I found myself in tears.
Mhm.
I grabbed my guitar and I started playing. I couldn't play. I started singing and I couldn't remember the verse, the lyrics.
Mhm.
Those things all broke me down. Or my voice is on time, but my hands weren't moving to the chords. So there's a lot of things that were working against me.
Yeah.
And it hit me hard. This is all the things that I was good at. I'm no longer
That.
even there,
Yeah.
And so I woke up one day and I says, no, this is not me. I'm not going to do this. 8 weeks after my second surgery, I was back to work. When I signed out of the rehabilitation hospital, um, the surgeon that ran the hospital,
Yeah.
he sits in front of me. He says, Jerry, have you ever written a book? And I said, no. He goes, I would consider writing a book because you are a miracle. There is no way you come out of what you went through this quick, this fast, this effective.
Yeah.
And, I still, and you could probably hear because you knew me before my accident, I
Mhm.
still have some speech, lapses when I'm tired, especially. But everything about me is back. I got it all back, and I put it all in God's hands.
Yes.
And it's just you got
Yes.
to help me through this one because I can't fight through this one by myself. I
Yeah.
still get a lot emotional about it.
Yeah.
I've changed my ways in the way I talk to people, my accountability of people. Everything has changed. I'm not that hardcore individual anymore because I don't need to be.
Yeah.
I don't need to be because um, although I've been successful and effective,
Yeah.
you can still be successful and effective, not being so hardcore.
So hardcore. Why were you hardcore? Why were you so, like, when you say you speak to people the way you did?
Yeah,
Why would you do that? Why?
yeah, because I success, failure, it wasn't an option for me ever, ever. I succeeded at everything that I've ever done. never fail. Tried out for the high school baseball team. As a freshman, I was the senior, the varsity third baseman. You know, failing was not an option for me. Everything that I've ever, Marine Corps, failing was not an option. I survived, I made it, because focusing on the right reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing has always been the thing. I wasn't hard like a nasty. I wasn't a tyrant. My accountability was high level.
Yeah.
You know, you can do better, and I'm not going to let you fail. If you give up on yourself, then I'm going to give up on you. I was very hard with that. You're 10 minutes late. Why are you 10 minutes late?
Yeah.
You know, if you're on time in my business, you're already late.
Yeah.
So I have that discipline that I carry with me. And a lot of that came from the Marine Corps. But understanding that the influence you have, your actions have a reaction.
Yeah.
When they're not good, they have a reaction when they're great also. But, you know, if you're late, that impacts so many other people. And you don't realize that. So me, it was opening people's eyes to understand that you got to be to work on time. You can't call out sick. You know, I mean, you're sick, you got to call out, but give me the time and the effort. And that I changed all of that. I've gotten to value my life more. Not my life for others more, but my life for me more.
Which is translating
into
others naturally. So I want to, because there's a few layers here. So, I mean, what I see is like you were hard on you. First of all, you were hard on yourself because you were not going to fail. You have people depending on you. It's not, I'm doing this because I have to, where you develop you know, a sense of what you need to do, your work values, your work ethics, where like you hold yourself to that and you're expecting others to, like, you're portraying that. Yeah, like, no, listen, man, if I could do it, you could do it. You're on time, you're late, right? So that's what's coming out of you, is what you're saying, where now that you've kind of learned to let go and not be so hard on yourself, it's kind of like now everyone gets it. Like, okay, I'm not hard on myself, I'm not hard on everyone else either, is what I'm trying to say. Is it translating that way?
Yeah, and you know, if I'm working until 5 o'clock, 5:01, I'm in my car.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on. If I'm off tomorrow, you know, I still have, there's a lot of fluctuations in retail, so you have to make adjustments and adapt to changes rather quickly. But, you know, my time is my time, and I don't give it up for anybody, you know, and
yeah,
you know, that's the way it's been since my, you know, this transformation has been the most positive one for me.
Wow.
Because I never thought about me.
Yeah.
And that accident opened my eyes about me.
Yeah.
But more importantly, if I'm absent, what impact, what effect is that going to have on others? And, you know, I truly believe that I'm at the point in my life, in my age, that I need to pay attention to me and for me, not for others. But as a result, others are beneficiaries of that. You know?
Yes. It's it's not a, it's a paradox. Is that what it's called? Where it's like, yeah, less is more, right? This is, so because you lived your life, because you know, you had to support your family without what my, you know, I'm supporting my family I love so much that I'm doing this for you, where you had to be great at your job in order for there goes the light. In order for you to provide, you had to be the best person, or the best at what you do in order to do that. That's how you're thinking about it, where there was no room for you in this, where now you found that all right, without me, I mean, I can't work. If I'm not capable of working, I can't work, which means I can't provide for my family. But in like finding that, man, I really do have to take care of myself. everything kind of still works out, is what
Mhm.
I'm hearing.
Right.
All right. I
Yeah, don't
mean,
be so hardcore, because if you take care of you through it all, that takes care of everything
so
that you represent, that you are in charge of, you know.
yeah,
And I think that, and a lot of people in my business have noticed the difference. A lot of people that I've developed and promoted have noticed you've changed. But it's for me, it's been for the good. And I Kim has been very, very helpful in helping me understand a lot of that,
yeah,
and to you know, look at it from what I can control, as opposed to focusing on things that I cannot control.
yeah.
And what can you control in this scenario? What can you control in this?
Mm,
In a lot of cases, I'm a very emotional person. I wear my emotions on my sleeve
yeah,
and my heart on my sleeve, and
me too.
and sometimes I may not show
Yeah.
the reaction of something,
Hmm.
but it eats me inside, and that's not healthy,
No.
because you have to be able to talk it out. One, two, did I have to take it personal?
Yeah.
I
And those
have
are,
control over that.
yeah. And those are big because and I'm learning this now, right? And I do that. I mean, it stems from my family. Like I do take things personal. I don't take as many things as I did before personal, but it happens every once in a while where learning to. I think it learns to. It's learning to let go of that, man. That wasn't even personal, right?
Yeah.
Because when you do, you hold that in. When you say that, it's like, man. And I think you're cancer too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a cancer, and it's like, man, I'm an emotional creature, bro. I
Yeah.
am emotional, but that's what it is. It's important to talk about these things, and it's important to. I noticed for me when it feels so much better, where like as opposed to, yeah, I took that personal. And if somebody says, yo, you took that personal, and you're like, nah, I ain't take that personal, like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
you're not taking it personal,
You
right?
did.
where where as opposed, and I'm still feeling like crap, because like now I did take it personal, and now you're calling me out on it, and no, man. So,
Mhm.
and it just makes it worse and worse.
Yeah.
Where you accept it and you acknowledge it, like, yeah, man, I did take it, and that allows for you, like, man, you know what, I took that personal. I
Mhm.
know I was in my feelings, but it wasn't all that, it
Yeah.
was, it is what it is. But for you to accept that, that is it's, yeah, it's a part of what you, who you are and what you did. It
Yeah.
just takes that weight off you, like, okay,
Yeah.
now I can
So
move
so
forward.
look at every scenario, right?
Mhm.
When somebody treats you wrong, right? What's the only thing you can control? Is how
Your
you took it.
How you react, yeah, how you take
Yeah.
it, how you react, yeah.
So you can't control the jerk.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
The person's going to be a jerk no matter what.
Yeah.
But you can control how you receive what's coming out of that
Mhm.
jerk, I guess.
Yeah,
And Kim's been very instrumental in coaching me through that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Even with my kids.
yeah.
She's made a lot of sense in the way she kind of views things, and
Mhm.
I go so long without hearing from somebody, and I start thinking that I did something wrong. What did I say to distant? And you didn't do anything wrong. Why
No.
don't you reach out?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I realized I'm the only one reaching out. Nobody else is. Well, that's my responsibility, is to reach out.
Mhm.
You
So
know,
now you go ahead.
so eventually one day, everybody will open up their eyes. I've been distanced from dad, but he's always reached out to me. He never used that against me for not reaching out to me. And she makes a lot of sense with that. So I have a life coach,
Yeah,
with me.
blessing you.
Yeah, because it is what it is. We each have our opinions.
Yeah.
When we combine our forces to make sense of each other's opinion. I think it's priceless, and we can talk through anything.
Anything.
You know, we don't argue. We don't. We put it all on the table and we discuss it. This is how I felt, and this is why I felt that
Exactly.
way.
Yeah.
And we can both say our side and genuinely apologize.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant. That's not how I meant to make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the choice of words were wrong. I'll try harder,
Yeah.
work harder, a better choice of words,
Mm-hmm.
and we can get through it. And we, with a smile, we end up every one of our what I call contradicting conversations or things that ruffle the other's feathers.
Yeah.
And those things are all important because as I'm learning that late in my life, I just wish I had it all my life
Yeah.
because my relationships with everybody would be different. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there is no, there isn't anything that I can't talk to my siblings about.
Mm.
And if somebody made me feel awkward or wrong, I know that I can take my sibling to the side and say, listen, what you said, I didn't take right. I
Mm-hmm.
give them an opportunity to clear the air.
Yeah.
But once the conversation is had, whether I like what I heard or not, we move on.
It's
There's still love existing there. But
you
it
let
had to be
go.
said because it eats you inside and it ruins your relationships with the people you love the
Yeah.
most.
Yeah,
You know?
you're absolutely right. And that's so, and when you finally come to that realization, it's like, man, I wish I knew this for forever, right? And then you also wish for others to like, for them to come to that realization too. That because it's such a feeling where you can put it out and let it go finally, because you've been holding on to that, you've been holding on to it and carrying it with you and carrying it with you, and it's like, man, it's heavy as hell, yo, because
Gonna explode out of you eventually.
yeah, exactly.
You can't control the debris, right?
Yeah, exactly. Where we learn to express it and let it go, and you're so right, because I'm learning that too with my relationship with my wife, and relationships in general, where you have to be honest with yourself, where if it's something that's eating you up, you have to kind of, all right, let me talk about this, because it's not I need to let this go, I got to put it out there, where then it's you you express how you felt about it, where that person saw it a whole different way, like it's just the perspectives were different, right? And valid from both sides, right?
Right.
Like, oh shit, I didn't even look at it that way,
Right.
but now I have a better understanding. And at the same time, I think we have as humans, we are naturally we are loving and forgiving. Like, we don't want to be upset at people, we don't want to not love, where things are cleared up. It's like, all right, man, like let's keep it moving. Like, we went through this and it was a misunderstanding, or it was something real, like, shit, man, I did disrespect you, I didn't mean to, like, I really didn't mean to do that. But like, you wouldn't know any of that if you just kept carrying it on and not opened up about it. Where,
Absolutely.
yeah, where it's so that when they say communication is so important, and people go through life saying things like this, but if you know, it's really like
It's
communicate
true.
with, yeah, because
It's not just a saying.
no, it's not. It's like, so, oh my God, I felt so good. Okay. And
Yeah.
your relationships always get better after that. It's like,
Stronger. Yep.
man, it's stronger. It's like
Yeah.
everything we've been through, and each time that you work through something out with somebody, it just makes that relationship so much stronger. Like, look, like, nobody can take away what we've been through it, and how we communicate and how our relationship is. But it starts from being open to, or realizing it, first of all, because you have to, when you say that you've learned to not be so going so hard on yourself or so hard on other, or take things personal. First you have to accept that and say, yeah, I did take that personal, because like I said, like, no, I
Yeah.
didn't taking that personal. What you mean? But when you
That's
first,
showing.
exactly, like, clearly, okay, you're not taking it personal, right? But when you first accept it and be like, you know what, yeah, that's the first step. Like, yeah, it is, I took that personal, you
Yeah.
know. And because you're in control of how you take things, how you react to things, and you're never going to fix it or get through it if you deny that you are, or you did. You got to accept it. Like, yeah, I took that personal. Listen, this is what happened. What I felt this way because of this and that, and it's valid. Like, everybody has their own ways of taking things, right? Because some people take things away where you're like, man, why'd you take it that way? Like, I didn't, that's not what I meant, right? But
Mhm.
everybody has their own perspective on things, where if we were to communicate and listen to each other, you get, you peel off those layers, or whatever it is, where you find like, man, we're more alike than we thought, right?
Mhm.
And man, I love you for it, and
Yeah.
I just think it's a beautiful thing. Um, but I want to go back to the transformation, right? So, and this is your most important transformation, is what you're saying. What do you think allowed you, or what did you think allowed you to transform? Was it that you controlled it going in, or was it because of you let it go and say, listen, God, you take this, it's too much for me right now, help me through this?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nose, right? So when you're down and out, it's probably the best time that you can engage God, right? And it's probably more common when you're down and out. And I did, I did, you know, reached out. I said, not so much that I can't do this alone. It's more like I'm not gonna make it without you.
Yeah.
It's not that I can't do it alone unless I have you here with me, pushing me forward, guiding me, protecting me.
Mm.
This is not going to work. But I didn't turn to God because I was distanced from God, because I've been always close to God in many different ways. You slip and slide like everything else, but I always have the faith within me, and I looked up and I says, I need to get myself out of this. This is not my
Mhm.
road. So because I was able to do that, and I put it in his hands.
Exactly.
I put it, I says, there's a saying, there's a song, take the wheel.
Yep.
Yeah, it's exactly what I allowed. This is what I'm gonna do. I felt that the decisions that I were all guided by his hands. I have this great understanding that when the thought comes to your mind, that's God talking to you.
Yes,
And
exactly.
you have to interpret it that way.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear a voice in your ear. You're not going to hear a knock on your door. It's going to be the thought, the idea comes to your mind, and you got to kind of study that. Why am I thinking this? And so I did a lot of that. And because I spent a lot of time alone, feeling sorry for myself, I was able to kind of hear it and move with it. But yeah, I Kim and I go to church, and Life Church. You can find it online.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful. And I walk out of there in tears
Yeah. That's,
still
now that's
today.
great.
Yeah, and one of the messages that I heard, one day I'm sitting there bawling with the message, and it says, it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
That's the Holy Spirit cleansing your soul. And I that made me even worse. But that part of me, every day, every night, every morning,
Mhm.
uh, Kim and I, we at dinner, every day my biggest fear is that I let that enemy take the best of me. So I pray every day for the shield to protect me and to not let anything penetrate. Because when I feel a reaction to something, somebody, I deal with a lot of people at work.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm in retail. To the world, we're maggots. No, to the world, we're like the lowest in the food chain. And so I know people come at me in very different ways, and I get a lot of compliments. I don't do it alone. This is where I need God the most.
Yeah.
Because I feel that the closer I get to Him, the more I'm challenged by the enemy. I'm attacked, and I feel it more at work than anywhere else. And you know, I have a thought, somebody yelling and shouting at me. I'm okay with standing in there listening. When they stop, I just say something very simple. Listen, I came out to help you, but your actions towards me are keeping me from moving forward. So if we could treat each other with respect, like two adults and professionals, I'm going to help you through this. And that's what I get out of my focus on not letting the enemy take the best of me. Yeah. Is what the message that I deliver in those moments are positive. And those that are standing by listening always take the time to say, oh my God, I can't believe you took that from that guy, and your response was so positive. So, and you calmed the situation down, you protected your associate, and that was priceless. I have people after people stop me at work, and these are angels that are coming to me.
Yeah.
To tell me that you're doing something right here. And I get it several times a week. And I grin. And because I grin, it says, you're smiling. I says, I know, I understand all the messages that are coming from him.
Yeah.
And so, but in the morning, I put all you guys, my entire family, in his hands. At night, I do the same. I don't pray only when I'm down and out. I pray when I'm really happy. I'm so grateful for that moment that I feel so great. And I think that's equally important. In some cases, probably more important. And so I've transformed that way in many different ways. But you also have to understand that the people in your life have to have some similarities in their faith to yours. Otherwise, you're constantly battling, and battling always is not, it's not the way to live in the faith, because you feel like it feels like it's harder all the time, when it should be easier, because those around you share the same faith, you know, positivities that go with it, and the comments and conversations surrounding that to be all in that same fashion.
Yeah, that's a great way of explaining it and looking at it. First of all, the power of prayer is so huge, you know, and that's another thing that people say, that no, that it really is. What I'm saying is like 10 times more if you really feel it, take the time to understand it. Like the power of prayer is huge. Second of all, when you do, and the way that I see it, when you're vibrating at that level where you're the closer you get to God, right, you're more like on, and it's not about a higher level or a lower level, like you're not on my level, and it's just different levels, that when you're in a relationship, and the closer you get to God, and you know, you find yourself with people that kind of are in the same boat, like, okay, we're vibrating at that level, like, you understand, we're sharing the same faith, right, where it's natural that you're not like this if we're what I'm trying to say is, like, if we're not if our faith is not on the same level, then yeah, it doesn't, you don't resonate with it, you really don't want to even go there, right? But it's okay, it is okay, because some of those people, it's just not their time yet. They're not there yet, right? But it's natural to like, all right, I mean, like, listen, I'm not even gonna go there. That's not, I don't feel like going over there because that's
Yeah.
not where your level is. Not, that's not where you're at.
Mhm.
Where I prefer to be in this environment where I am with people that are on my site on the same level. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a negative thing. Like, there's just, I can't rock with those people, or, I'd rather be over here because I mean, at the same time, like you said, they're going to be in your life regardless.
Right.
Those battles are there for a reason too, right? And
Mhm.
maybe it has nothing to do with you. Maybe they're on a path that they actually want to be, where you're like, they feel what you're like, I want to be like that guy. So God has placed them in your life, in your environment, for their reasons, right? And for us to stay like, right, yeah, hey, how you doing, whatever, all right, well, I'm gonna come over here. um it's not, I mean, so what I'm trying to say is that you're always going to be on the battlefield, right, of that,
Yeah.
and it's going
Mhm.
to show up. And a lot of times you do learn from it because it was meant for you, right? Okay, you say you're this guy. Let me see how you handle this situation, right?
Mhm.
Because matter of fact, this person right here too needs this battle right here too, right?
Mhm.
Like he needs it. Like, let me put you guys in the same room. Let me put you guys together and see how that happens. How that the reactions you get. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that I understand that, you share this, you have your faith, you share with who you share with, and you feel great in that. But you're always going to have those battlefield moments where the test is for you, or the test is just for this person. It's just like, let's not take anything personal, right? Let's
Mhm.
just go through it together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, at the end of the day, you know, you go home, you leave it all behind, and
Exactly.
so boy, in 20 minutes, huh?
What happened?
20 minutes.
Yeah, my podcast.
Yeah,
What? How long has it been?
an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
We're
Well, I
boring
think so.
people.
But this is what a great conversation is. I feel like it was a great conversation. I
Yeah,
love,
I think
yeah, I love you sharing your experience of transformation.
mhm.
And I'm happy to hear that. It just, and so you say that you have transformed, and you do still have your moments, and I think that it's like, that's perfectly normal. Like, it is, there's nothing wrong with that in your life. And and if you're not in uncomfortable places, and if you're not learning anymore, there's no reason to be alive, right? It's
Right.
constant learning and mess ups and fixing it and learning from it. But I feel like that's always going to be what we go through in life.
Yeah. So the next podcast we share should be relationships.
Let's do it. I'm writing this down. Oh, relationships. Anyways, so I love you, Theo. I appreciate you. I'm honored to have you on the show. I think that what you shared today I feel like it was just super inspiring.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I also want to talk more about that miracle and you writing a book, because it is a miracle, bro. They telling you like, yeah, you're not gonna get back for a year, and for you to go through have that relationship with God where you're like, listen, man, take the wheel, and
Mm.
how letting that go and letting go and letting God does create miracles. So I want
Yeah,
to talk more about that too.
you got it.
All right.
It was great. Take care. My regards to the family.
All right, Benicio.
God bless you.
Hey, um,